Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And you know, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show, the Blue Collar Mystics show. This is the show for you if you can't help but get in there and peek around, and explore your soul with a flashlight and a Swiss Army knife. And that's what we can't help but do. We keep asking the question, what is going on here? And nobody can answer it. It's the unanswerable question. We can't help ourselves. But we keep doing it. And we're happy to hang out and share that with you guys. Please share this show. There's one definite thing that you could do for us, and that is share this out. It costs you nothing, and it really helps us out because the algorithms don't like people who advocate for self-ownership and, personal rights and, self-development and those types of things. So please share this out. We have a very special, awesome episode today. We're going to be talking a little bit about our last excursion with the Sonic Portal, and we have a few people to talk about some of their experiences with it. And I know there's a lot of people who this thing has definitely touched and changed their life. I've had it in my living room, so I've had the opportunity to experience it, and it is absolutely incredible. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight, and we have some friends who are going to drop by and talk about their experience. So I'm here with James, a.k.a. Admiral Hitz, the architect of the Sonic Portal. How you doing, man?
Awesome, man. We just did the first show of the year, and it was great to get back into the flow of things, and even in the people who didn't necessarily ride. We're well aware of what we're doing and what we offer, and super appreciative that we were there. So it was, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. It was a beautiful location. The weather was super nice. I don't know much about EDM. I was coming up with a lot of similes for what I thought those things sounded like. I'm pretty sure I heard a few Bitcoins get made this weekend. That's what was going on back there. Maybe some robot orgies. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but it sounded wild, and I like the gongs because, it was able to kind of focus on that, and everything else melted away in the background. We connected with a lot of people, talked to some really cool folks, and man, I really, really had a blast, man. So thanks for bringing me along for it there at Soulfest. Where else is the portal going to be making its presence felt?
Well, we're doing a little, I guess, Saturday night or Friday night, a super secret set at Rekinection. I got a friend, Chance Garton from the Interverse podcast, gave me a ticket and invited me out to come hang out with him that weekend. So I'm going to go check out his workshops and all the things that he offers. And we're going to maybe do a couple hours here and there sporadically. But, those are just for fun. The next 3 stops after that are summer camp up in Chillicothe, Illinois, Sonic Bloom in Rye, Colorado, southeastern Colorado, a really wonderful spot, the Hummingbird Ranch. And then, of course, ground zero for all of my Zanius, which is Electric Forest, the Sherwood Forest, which was the original immersive art experience from Rothbury 08 and 09. carried over to its own event, sponsored by String Cheese. And it's ground zero for where it all began for me, outside of a couple of like trial events. And so I'm always stoked to go back home and experience it, what we do to people in the forest. And then of course Burning Man at the end of the summer.
Man, that's awesome. It's legendary. It was really cool seeing some of the people's reactions. We were like, oh my God, the portal's here. It's back. They're just so excited. Some people were coming several times, and that was kind of cool to connect with some of the other folks, who are in that sort of scene, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. Some of the other people who are living very unique and interesting lives and creating their own realities, like the Frick Frack Blackjack guys and some of the other folks who are really fun and cool to hang out with. So you guys be sure to follow the Sonic Portal on Instagram at Sonic Portal. Be sure to do that. There's a link in the description to do that. And we're going to be taking calls. In fact, we have somebody here. Thanks for being patient too, by the way, who's going to hop in and talk to us a little bit about their experience with the portal. Now, if you have experienced the Sonic Portal, if it's something that you've done, we'll shoot a link into the live chat. Let us know in the live chat, first of all. And we'll shoot a link in there for folks to call in a little bit later. And we'll be taking people in here as we go and just chilling and hanging out live. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. You guys are amazing. Really appreciate you guys kicking it with us as we are streaming on the internet, which is cool. We just decided to do this today, and I feel like we've already got a really good response. Well, cool. Well, let's bring a friend of yours in, James, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about. Tell us a little bit of. Hello, how you doing? How you doing, Ken?
Can't hear you. There you.
Having some audio stuff. Ken, can you hear us? I can hear a little bit.
Hear a little bit. Turn up the volume on your mic.
Sorry, man.
There we go.
No worries, man.
It's all good, dude. There's some settings and stuff here in StreamYard. Just kind of be checking that. Let's see here.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing, Ken?
Good. Sorry about that. I tried to use my headphones, but they didn't work.
That's all good.
No worries, man. So what's going on, man? How you doing? Getting ready for the summer?
Yeah, I just got my Electric Force wristband ready to go and the time off. So that's basically where I met you guys for the Sonic Portal.
Yeah, how we linked up is you were always tagging me and into a lot of your posts, and after a while I was like, wow, I don't recall meeting this guy directly, but he really seems to be into us. And then I reached out to you directly and got your story, and we became friends. Your story touches me. Even when I tell your story, sometimes it makes me cry. So it's like, it's like there's so many people like you that have had a really, life-changing experience, and I just feel so blessed to be able to be part of a catalyst for that kind of change. And so when Bootsy was talking today about trying to get people on, I was like, man, I wonder if Ken would want to come talk.
Absolutely, yeah. The spiritual journey part of it was that Sonic Portal. It woke something inside of me, and I didn't exactly know what it was until months later, and memes were popping up on Instagram and Facebook, and it started explaining things. That's why I was tagging you in a lot of these things, like the Merkaba, just the light or sacred geometries, things like that. Like everyone has their own journey when they go in the portal, but I experienced those things for myself. And it explained quite a bit to unlock the things inside of me that I couldn't see before. And that sonic portal allowed that to happen. It was a spiritual awakening, but I didn't realize it wasn't going to be, candy and butterflies and sunshine and rainbows. It was a deep look at your bullshit and being sick of it. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, so when you get into the portal, don't expect like it's just this, beautiful sunshine going in. It's a deep self-reflection looking inside of your soul.
That's so cool, man. We got a really good comment here. Someone who doesn't really know about the portal, so they can catch up. If we can just give a quick overview of what it is, James.
Well, I like to call the sonic portal a nonverbal lesson in the moment. It really shakes you to a point where you, for lack of a better word, feel like maybe you're in a womb or returning to creation. It basically just shuts down your brain to the point where your heart takes over, and your heart knows exactly what you need. And today it might just be your back not hurting and your feet feeling better, and tomorrow it might be a full-on shamanic dismemberment. Really, it's kind of a situational thing. I think there's so many variables involved that I don't really like to make any kind of claims. I just say, hey, we got a spaceship, take a ride, see where it takes you. It's like we're facilitating this thing, but we're not the ones doing it to you. You are doing it to yourself. And we're just kind of giving you the space for that to happen. And, a lot of people don't meditate. And so when you try to get into meditation, that it can be kind of aggravating. And you're like, what's supposed to happen? There's a lot of anticipation, a lot of things. And this is just an instant dive into that experience, And so we're kind of giving people that instantaneous internal look at themselves without having to put years of meditation and that's not to say that it's going to work for everybody. 1,000 people go in and 1,000 people come out with a different experience. Some people get light relief from whatever's bothering them, while others, like myself and Ken here, have gotten our bells rung so much it's changed our lives. And those lighter experiences are just as valuable. Having a moment of just relaxation and decluttering of the brain and a refocus. So, it really is just an immersive sound experience that gives people that moment that's different from all the other moments they've just experienced time after time after time after time. And it kind of just breaks the hypnotic rhythm. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
that's what's on my spaceship.
If you've never seen it before, I'm trying like crazy, but I only use this one web browser for StreamYard, and so I have to adjust the settings. But it's basically like a circle that encloses you with gongs, and so each one is like representative of a different planet around you, and so you go in and you have this vibrational experience, and I love James's approach because he's not promising anything other than, hey, come check this out, see what happens. Let's play, let's enjoy this. And a lot of times people will go in there and something will happen. We had a couple people this weekend who had amazing experiences. I had an amazing experience myself, and so that's why I'm so interested and passionate about the project. But again, it's not some specific sort of new age sort of thing. It's just something that you kind of have to experience. How would you describe it, Ken? So since you sort of walked in and you out of nowhere discovered this thing, I take it like at a festivals, right?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting journey. Just because I was a patron, and then Admiral Hitz invited me last summer, which is my first festival back into the festival market since COVID. And it was quite unique because Hitz offered me an opportunity to work with him, to volunteer my time to be in uh, the moment gonging people. So there's the part of gonging people, which the human soul, that energy of Hitz and I, putting that energy into the gong and that vibration hitting to your soul. That's where I think a lot of it comes from. It's not just the gongs, it's the souls that are operating the gongs as well, that are communicating with the souls inside. When I walked by it, I could see people coming out of it emotionally touched, just walking out of it when I first saw it at Electric Forest. And I noticed people wanting to give him their money. And I thought that was kind of weird. Like, why are they just offering? They're just giving it to him. Like, let me give you my money. So I tried it out and I walked in there and I didn't even have any money. I didn't have cash on me. A lot of these festivals nowadays, pretty much you can't even carry cash on you. So at the time, Hitz didn't have Cash App or any of that stuff. So I felt really bad. I was really emotional coming out of it just because of the fact that, you know, the people who are operating it, I could feel their energy and the way, you know, they brought me into the light or into that energy field and then bringing me back. That's where I get the whole spaceship thing, because when you walk in, you just think, oh, it's just a steel cage with some gongs. And then when you walk out, you feel like something grabbed a hold of you inside and you just want to hug somebody. So going in there and then coming out and then gonging people and doing that with Hitz, like we were two total strangers. And the only way we knew each other is through the portal and through, you know, the communication of what I got through the memes and what I tagged him in and what him and I linked up on and had many conversations about. And then I felt like the universe connected us as if we were going into a new dimension or some sort. Like this whole world is changing right now as we went from 2018 till now. And I've just noticed that this journey was a lot to do with that portal.
Man, that is so cool, dude. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I know that feeling of getting a hug too, because like we experienced that, and I had the pleasure. Like I said, man. I mean, I guess I'm just like super lucky, you know, and I'm grateful for it. But we had the portal set up here, so I got to, you know, a really intimate look at the whole experience, and it was something that was really indescribable, you know, and such a fun and interesting sort of hook, you know, to kind of come into. So I want to ask you a little bit about the memes. I think that's interesting, and maybe how they affected you as you started, you know, noticing these things. What was the first thing, and what were the memes that you were kind of checking out on the internet that were having an effect on you?
The first one was when I went in the portal for the first time, because I've gone in it a few times, and like Hitz said, you know, one can go in and get, you know, one feeling and then another feeling the next. It's all depending on what you're going through at that time, I feel. And at that time, when I went in, I had a near-death experience I was telling Hitz about, and that's how we really connected. And when I died, I felt like, and I brought back to life, I felt like I was cold, like I was gone. And but there was a light, and that light was just infinite. It was like a room, like a hall. And I didn't understand what any of this was. And when I went into the portal in 2018, I went back there. But instead, I felt everyone's energy, all the souls around me. Because when you get in, they want you to touch shoulder to shoulder, get real tight and close. And that's how I felt that I knew I wasn't dead, that I was alive, and that I was in this portal, like in this, I didn't know what it was. So months later, as I'm going through this hashtag called the Great Awakening, which all the social media is shut down. Like you can't look up Great Awakening. It's just shut down, which is weird. But anyways, the whole Great Awakening hashtag, I found the Merkaba. And the Merkaba described exactly what I was in, because when I went in and saw the light, I saw like sacred geometry. And one of the memes is describing the Merkaba. When it's charged up, it can take you to another place, like when a human spirit or soul is within a Merkaba. And that was one of the memes that was explaining a Merkaba. Um, and then I saw the sacred geometry, and I didn't know what that was either. And that explained a lot for me as well. And then another one was the different levels as far as like our what do you call the 7 points, the pineal gland,
Chakras.
the chakras, yes. And those chakras lined up going into the crown and into that portal. I felt like it allowed me to go there, like leave my body and go somewhere. And I didn't understand that, and the meme explained that as well. And it's part of the chakras. When you release your spine, when you're all tangled up, you can't go anywhere. But when you focus and meditate, as you were talking earlier, you get into that meditative state, and you have all your chakras cleared, and you go into that portal. Yes, the spaceship is definitely something I agree upon, that you can definitely travel, but other people can get different experiences. Like other memes that I've seen where, people are just going through depression and that negative state of mind, and going into that portal can change that mind frame. It's just quite unique.
Man, that is so cool. Thank you for sharing, man.
Yeah, Ken is one of the people that after talking to him about his experience and stuff, um, he helped me realize how important starting to help people integrate these experiences were. It really helped me start noticing how often this is happening. I was like, a lot of people would talk about, oh, you've brought me to God, or I know what spirit is now. And I was an atheist before my crazy sonic portal experience, and it literally changed my life, like everybody has always said. And I started talking to Ken after mine, and I realized, oh my God, like how many people have really had this wide open experience that we've received. It's like it's and so Ken talked about a lot about coming back and having, everybody's laughing, and he had tears in his eyes, and like, why, what happened, what's different, what's going on here, kind of thing. So his experience has really helped me deal with, help start identifying integration and helping people integrate these things, because I didn't have integration for 2.5 months until after mine. I was blown wide open, and I didn't have a spiritual dialogue because I was brought up without religion.
Yep. Well, cool, man. We got somebody else here coming in. Let's bring him in. What do you say?
Yeah. Do you want to stick around and talk, Ken? You got time?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. What's up, Gino?
Hey, Gene.
Hey, man. What's happening, guys? I'm just chilling. Good to be on the podcast with you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. So,
you know what? I forgot to put my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
There's a huge delay. I can hear it. All right, cool. That's great to be here, guys.
Yeah, so Gene's another fellow that Gong has changed the trajectory of his life, and he is another person from Electric Forest, and man, I tell you, like, you stayed in all day, didn't you, Gene? You stayed in for a couple hours.
I was guessing it's about 4 hours, and I wasn't watching the watch, but
Yeah.
4-hour experience in a transformation that can occur within 4 hours is just mind blowing. It really was something that just blew me away. And I don't know if you get many of those experiences, and it sounds like you have some pretty awesome experiences, of course. But I was really having difficulties even asking Google and figuring out from Google, like, there's not a lot of information about these sort of spiritual, mystical experiences that can be unleashed within this sound space. And it's really beautiful. And I'll be forever grateful to be able to share the gifts that you shared with me. And it's a really phenomenal transformational experience. And so we've summarized it. I study a lot of different areas, and I've been able to get my elevator speech down. So someone asked me like what I do with music, and I say, well, we synthesize diverse elements by creating functional harmony, and it's a beautiful thing to do. And it was a radical, rapid elimination by synthesizing diverse elements, creating a functional harmony. And so we can present, you can present this beautiful meditation space, and the mind and the soul has the wisdom within it. And you allow this silence to occur, and it allows the brain to transition frequencies into the sleep frequencies that we normally only get into when we rest real heavy and we're dreaming. So when you're in that theta state and you're dreaming, this is a very beautiful space, but you're always there unconsciously. Well, the portal provided me a space to go into theta while awake and completely aware. So here I am awake in the dream, about an hour into the gongs. My third eye has opened. I have just had a rapid illumination. I'm in bliss. The tears are flowing out of my face, like unlike anything I've ever felt before. It was like, felt like a stream of hose, like a water stream coming down my face for about an hour. Beautiful bliss being suspended there. My breath was about a minute square breath, right? So a minute long inhale, minute long pause, minute long exhale, minute long pause. And that's where a lot of transformation was occurring with the sound, allowing my conscious mind chatter to silence. And then the last hour of this 4 hour or so experience, I somehow or another touched on things that were deep down, tucked way in the subconscious. And it turned out that I had childhood trauma that needed resolved, and I needed to repair it by offering forgiveness. And I didn't have any spiritual context, no religious context. Nobody's ever told me any of these things could occur. And then it turns out that the sages that are in these books, like the Buddha and Jesus and all these guys, they had similar experiences accessing cheat codes within the human body and the mind. The Bible's all about the mind. Turns out the breath and the mind and the sound space, this beautiful meditation offers us this transformative cheat code. This is what the kids are going to understand. The cheat code for us. We can hack our system. It's beautiful. And so I come out 4 hours later. I had resolved most of the trauma because I had offered forgiveness to the people who were traumatizing me as a child for the first few years of my life. And I completely forgot about that. Here I am, fast forward 27 years. I'm 27 years old in 2012. I get introduced to this sound space that I had never even heard of before. And the first 10 minutes of it were beautiful. I can get this sensation in my face, and I'm going, what is this? I'm intrigued. So, it's only meant to be like a 10-minute sample, of course, because he got groups coming in and out all day long. Full festival. It's beautiful. Well, I go back in for a second dose because I was being a little bit, excited about it, and I didn't want to leave it again. I'm like, I go back in here to check this out. So it just all unfolded for me. It was beautiful. I'm excited to see how this transformation within me can start to help transform others, just as the Sonic Portal has offered me. And I'm really thankful and grateful to share the gift and keep passing it on.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You at 2012 experienced the Sonic Portal 2.0, which seats about 35 to 40 people. And usually we do a much smaller dome. So you actually had the freedom to stay in that long. And I had a film crew going that weekend full time. And the film crew got a lot of video of you having that experience. And my employees are like, hey, what's up with this guy? He's sticking around. He doesn't want to leave. I'm like, we have all the space in the world. Just let him chill. I'll stay till he wants to go. And but yeah, you took it to a whole nother level, though. I mean, you left and went out and bought gongs yourself, correct?
Yeah. So I came home blown away. I should also add to summarize the rest of that experience because the whole beautiful. So not only was the 4 hour gong experience amazing, but the 12 hours following that experience, I'm still at the festival, hanging out at the campsite. And it was just incredible because I sat down on my yoga mat, and I didn't plan on doing anything special. I just sat down and improv as I typically do. and I had superhuman gymnast strength. Like I could do inversion handstands on one hand. Like it was the weirdest stuff. And all my buddies were like, dude, look, everybody's taking pictures and stuff. And like everybody's going all wild. But I was just in this really interesting headspace where I had so much, like an unlimited amount of strength for the 12 hours after that. And so that was just a nice way to kind of cap off a really beautiful thing. But so yeah, I come home and full of excitement and also just the word enlightenment completely changed in terms of what it actually meant, because when you can go through the transformation of enlightenment and you lighten your load, I felt like I was walking, or I wasn't even walking on the ground really. I was like a feather floating around, and I had realized I wasn't carrying all this unneeded and unnecessary heavy trauma and animosity and anger and sorrow, guilt, whatever all those other things are. And I realized, like, wow, this is beautiful. I should probably share this because I see a lot of people in the same position without any solutions. So I started looking into things. I contacted you. You sent me in the right direction. I got some gongs from Gongs Unlimited. And I was like, listen, I want to match this guy's setup because I don't know what he did, but he's got something figured out. I'm going to try to just I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. This dude's got it dialed. So I want to try to capture a part of the essence there. And I come home. I've now built 2 geodesic domes on 3 acres for the past 10 years. We've been developing the project. But I have 8 gongs, this 65-inch gong behind me. Those will all be over in the second studio sound dome, which is this beautiful harmonic chamber. And it's beautiful how the puzzle pieces come together. I've studied prison yoga, how to serve different yoga and different sound therapy to different groups. And I have some doctors that will be bringing patients here for not only sound therapy, but plant medicine therapy and so forth. And so it's really fun to see how this wonderful festival experience ends up integrating itself into culture and getting solutions to people who are left with whatever the solutions Western medicine is going to figure out for them, which is always going to be about this. And we want to just find the root cause and address the root cause and not try to change people. We have a non-verbal experience here. It's a beautiful way to offer up a therapy, and I'm excited to share it as an additional therapist to my man over here at the portal.
Hey, Gene, it's funny you say that because I always say it's a nonverbal lesson in the moment. And
Indeed. The other week I seen you say it, and I'm like, yes, I've been saying that, but I haven't really made that more of my mantra. But I think that's an important mantra within this therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I mean, your story is incredible, and it's been really awesome to watch you grow through the years. And you've taken study up with some of the top gong performers in the country, and you really brought it to a level that most people haven't. And it's like, it's great and beautiful that you were able to integrate that experience and really just have the drive and want to share the emotional freedom that you've got from it. And the same thing for me is it literally, after 12 years, I wrote 500 times and the stars were aligned on Christmas of 2020. It gave me the emotional freedom and took away all that baggage and all that trauma that I didn't even know I was holding on to, man. And now it's like, I was at the end, it was like this cool thing that everyone thought they liked and they never wanted me to stop. And when I got my experience, I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm doing now. And I just want to continue to share this and help people find that freedom.
Yeah, it's a wonderful freedom. And, so I go into researching what other music therapists are out there. And there's very, very few music therapists that are utilizing this amazing, I'd say the most powerful or one of the most powerful instruments to provide a therapeutic space and just give people the space to sit with themselves. And I was talking with my cousin today, and I said, imagine the person that is born to Earth, and they only stay in their house and maybe go on the porch every once in a while. That's all the only exploring they've ever done. How do you think that person is going to evolve and develop itself? I mean, what kind of character are they going to have? And I said, think about it like this. The people who haven't gone with music therapy or plant medicine therapy and explored within themselves, that's similar context, because when you haven't had any experience exploring the inside of yourself, it's completely all brand new territory. And it's beautiful. Now the portal has given us a platform to simply go within in a silent, conscious space where the music is sort of this, it's a continuity. And I tell you what, it was beautiful because I completely connected. It felt like, and I was out of my body, of course, for a big part of that experience, but I was connected with the universal energy, and it plugged me into this universal energy. You understood what the whole reincarnation idea was all about. But and again, the cornerstones of the religion are very pure. Of course, they got diluted and they're not so really righteous anymore. But spirituality still has those beautiful cornerstones, like understanding how to be rebirthed, how to mitigate trauma, how to offer solutions through rituals that are nonverbal, and the plant medicines were part of my integration into the Gong experience. So I'm not claiming that I went in there without any molecules within me. So like a lot of folks at the festival, you're exploring molecules, and so I haven't actually recreated my Gong experience there at the portal up in the forest. However, I'd like to try both anything, and then of course duplicate everything I was doing there that night, because that was, I think, part of the integration was the molecules being within me. And again, that stuff just unfolded. I never heard about any of it, so I had no preconceived notions to like create any ideas as to what was supposed to happen. I went into a deep meditation within that first hour, and that's where the sensation I was feeling in my face, it started to increase. I noticed the longer and deeper my breath was getting. And so I was intrigued, and for just a short moment, I became confused because it became so rapid at one point. I'm thinking to myself, like, what is going on? This is so strange. And then at about the end of that first hour, then that's when the third eye opens. I'm seeing my environment, and then this rapid illumination arrives. It felt like an orange cylinder of energy, and it was coming through me. And I don't know if this could be accurate or true, but I remember my subconscious mind reminding me, almost had a voice that says, you see this light right here, this light ray, basically, this is what everybody has at all times. Our consciousness just doesn't pick it up. We can't become aware of that. But here you are, here's an opportunity, what you're experiencing right now, to feel you're always connected to this. Everybody has this ray of light, energy that's within us. So these, when you see that the Bible is all about the mind, and then you understand sound therapy, and the gong is a 6,000-year-old ancient bronze instrument, it all come back full circle, and you're like, okay, so this is what the spiritual practices and the shamanic rituals were trying to cultivate, was these reawakenings, these rebirths, these bliss, euphoria, moments of euphoric interaction with yourself and others. And I mean, it's just beautiful. I had no idea where this was going to go, because I was going to the festival just to have a good time.
That's sort of like Ken too, right? Like Ken, I mean, you walked by it and just something. What your intuition told you needed to go in?
Yeah, that day it was a self-reflecting day. I didn't want to be around anyone. I was just tired of meeting up and just being disappointed with being late or not being able to meet with people. I just was done with it. I'm just gonna go on my own. Took some mushrooms, got out of that negative space that I was in, and I took a nap at the Honeycomb stage and woke up, and that's kind of where you guys were by, and I just kind of walked by you guys, and I kind of laughed and didn't even think of it as anything really big, but it was when I watched people walk out. That's what made me want to go wait in that long ass line. Because I mean, it's a long line when you look at it, but
And then you see their face and all the smiling and like just the amazing wash of energy over you. Like you feel like you've just gone through a whole rebirth experience. It's beautiful.
Yes. It's like I need some of that.
Nice, man.
Yeah. At the forest too, the line is literally so goddamn long that it's intimidating to people, but they don't realize 12 to 15 people at a clip are going into this thing, and so there's 200 people in line. It ain't much longer than an hour or an hour and a half.
Still,
and
that's pretty
music,
badass.
but there's stages right there to watch music and stuff. It's like it's all happening in the thick of things. But yeah, it's like it's so intimidating.
What's great is the people that you meet within and connect with, these total strangers.
Yeah, I love that forced group meditation aspect, And when we first started doing that too, it was a function of being able to see more people. And, we used to wonder, like, how is it that all these strangers can integrate with each other? And we always waited for like that one horrible moment, and very seldom, like there's probably been 10 incidences of someone too drunk or too high that ruined everybody's experience and have to do a do-over. But for the most part, everybody just surrenders, and that surrendering, that's a group meditation is pretty powerful, and most people don't even meditate together, let alone group meditate. And we're throwing you into a group meditation with all that energy, with all the things going on, and shutting down those minds. And we're all a sliver of the same energy, so it's kind of like realigning that sliver of the all.
Yeah.
Indeed, it's an exciting thing to see that you're sort of dropping seeds within this fertile garden, right? And then you have no idea which ones are going to grow and what's going to grow out of them. It's so fucking cool.
That's kind of the best part, right? There's no guarantees, there's no telling. It's all sort of left up to chance, which I think is really beautiful and fun, and it makes it exciting. We have somebody joining us here from this weekend, and we'll bring him in just a second as well. But I think, Gino, some of the stuff that you've said are just really good gold nuggets. My friend Honey is asking if you have a channel or website. We're happy to share that, of course, in the chat.
Yeah, definitely. My website is healthylivingspirit.org. And you can also find us on Instagram there. And it's going to be really exciting to see what the pursuit of this brand is going to offer the culture. And through my childhood trauma and those challenges, the opportunities are going to be delivered as a result of treating first responders, medical professionals, and military, because those are the highest suicide rates of all populations. And so that's something that touched me in the place. And I haven't experienced that personally. I never get the chance to, but I'm just I'm understanding the waves of suffering that these things are creating in society, and I'm seeing how beautiful music meditation, music therapy can be at offering relief for these people. And so it's just really fun because there's almost no competition, and so it's a really fertile area to serve a beautiful medicine and the therapy. And I think a lot of people are going to transform themselves for the better, and that's just a beautiful thing to share.
Yeah, man. I feel the same thing with that medical profession. Got a lot of really close friends in the nursing industry, and a lot of them are worn the fuck out from this last 2 years. And especially I've actually played for a bunch of nurses, and treating that market, giving people that 15-minute break from their mind is so important, because people don't realize how much of their pain is emotional and mental. It's like they're responsible for it, and they're actually hurting themselves with their thoughts. And then you add some physical stress into that, and it really becomes a very overbearing, how do I find a solution type of situation for them. And so, yeah, I've been really trying to figure out the best way to bring the gongs to that market in a way that isn't coming at it from hey, I'm here to heal you, but hey, you need to take a vacation from your day of work for 15 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah, well, so I've been looking at how to set up protocols within these industries. I've played at some retirement centers, at some behavior specialists and so forth. And so there's going to be some footwork we have to do to kind of get things laid out. But the good news is even though there's not much demand for this industry, there's a lot of therapists realizing that demand's coming soon. So there's basically a lot of therapists that get stuck playing pretty much just yoga studios for the most part, and they don't understand how to integrate themselves and kind of find their way into the retirement centers and the first responders in all these areas where they are needed. They just can't figure out how to get in there because they become so spiritually enlightened, and they become so artistic. They stay in the creative side of their mind, and then they forget that they got to use that masculine sort of logical thing and go, hey, how do we monetize this thing? Because, we want to make it a career. We want to be able to pass these careers on to our children. These are the things that are beautiful because they can become sort of ageless and stick around through generations. And it's so needed. If you think about mental health and all the therapies and medicines, they've only come around since like the early 1950s. And so this whole sort of medicine system and therapy system is very primitive. So we're on the cutting edge, and we don't even realize it maybe sometimes, but that's actually what's happening is we're providing this really useful space, and you don't need but just a short amount of time. And it's like 30 days of therapy within 3 hours is sort of the one of the mantras we'd say. And I've studied with Don Conroe for the last, since I came to you in 2012. That same year, I started studying with Don, who's traveled around the world for the past 45 years, sharing gong music. And I go up to New York a few times a year, and we teach classes of 30 to 40 people how to play the gong in a ritual shamanic space. And we basically play improvisational gong music, and that's the only way I know how to play. So one day I will learn how to study actual sheet music and all that. But right now, it's just a beautiful improvisational shamanic style setup that seems to work very, very beautiful. And that's what Don teaches and shares. And so I'm happy to be a student under him, and he has a great legacy he's leaving behind. You can check him out, Don Conroe, Conreaux. He has a great gong teaching he does also online now, and he's still traveling the world. I think 80, what is he now, 86, 87 years old. He's still got this crazy schedule where he's in all these countries, and he's trying to pass it, and it's soon going to happen. And because you see this potential, but we just haven't really had it blossom yet. But we're just planting the roots and kind of getting the roots to grow. Soon we're going to have some branches, and we're going to get some things moving. I think Don has a great big pile of momentum. He has all these students that are really focused on, and his new yoga is a beautiful mem yoga, which works with the meridians in the body. And this guy's just brilliant, but he has a lot of really useful work that integrates it within the music therapy gongs, scene. And I'm excited to get together with you and kind of just share strokes and just share space and share the art form. And it's a fun space to be in. And the festivals are a beautiful offering for everybody. Thankful for all the organizers who put those things on, because a lot of preparation goes on all year long to make that 1 week or that 4-day night, 4-day happen. So it's a beautiful thing to see everybody come together for some good times and some dancing and fun. And I'm happy to share it with you guys.
Yeah, Gene's actually coming out and joining us for Electric Forest this year. So that's going to be really exciting. A nice 10-year anniversary of us getting together, and it's amazing to see his trajectory and where it's taken, and for us to be able to play together at that point of where we met and shared it. So it's pretty special.
That's incredible.
It is. And so tell me a little bit more about what's going on, because I didn't get a chance to do my homework on the podcast or even what the direction of everything was about this. So let's talk a little bit more about what you guys have in mind and what your goals were for the podcast.
Oh, wow. I didn't have my mind in there.
Good. Well,
we're for the podcast. We really are trying to connect with as many people as possible. Blue Collar Mystics is the moniker. The idea is a practical approach to spirituality. We want to see, people progress and develop as quickly and as straightforward as possible, man. Like whatever works to keep it simple, stupid method to spirituality, perhaps, Yeah,
lifted up the hood and just, looking at the mechanics of the, mysteries of the universe, the stuff that's hidden from us, essentially. I mean, all the answers are there, and especially most of them are within.
Yeah.
Nobody looks within enough and looks for answers outside of themselves. And, it's really, Owen and I have come together with each from our own different perspectives, and have realized that we believe in story and comedy and like all these elements that really, bring your growth to a head. It's like the moment you start writing and start creating and start figuring out why you're here and why you're alive, and sharing your gift with the world. For him and I, we're both comedians. That's how we kind of linked up together, following our own path as making, with our commitment to make the world laugh. And, the more that we got together for writing and, to have fun and make people laugh, the more we realized that we were aligned in many other ways. And then it was just a simple partnership arose from there.
Yeah, I think you nailed it earlier, Gene, when you were talking about how we're not taught to look within, right? And we're studying all these fields of all this stuff out here, but
Out
never, yeah, exactly. Never are we prompted to look within, right? And that's really what we want to encourage people to do. That's what's so cool about the spaceship. And I think kind of what happens with people, it's like, okay, you never meditated before? Well, get ready, because you're about to, whether you know it or not, you know.
And so will the podcast be making any sort of, you know, on-site appearances, so to speak, at festivals, or is there a YouTube channel we should subscribe?
There is a YouTube channel that we're on right now, and you know, for the most part, Blue Collar Mystics is sponsoring the Sonic Portal Summer Adventures. So there's definitely a cross-pollination between the two projects, and ultimately, you know, the portal is a way to bring that into people's consciousness. It's a way to, you know, attract them and show them, you know, different perspectives, and you know, after someone has had their experience, you know, it's like there's a lot of things like, you know, Ken here didn't have any integration. You know, there was no post festival contact or any of that stuff. So, you know, that's what Blue Collar Mystics really is that next step after you get your bell rung by us and have a new perspective on your life, you know.
That's nice. Good thinking. There, you know, the potential is now going to be incredible because, you know, I think like you said, cross-pollinate. Well, you're pollinating people by allowing them to go within, and then they don't have an opportunity to transition with that knowledge, making it useful. You know, they're sort of losses of what do I do with it now?
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And imagine having, you know, somebody who's been there before be like, oh, relax. It's okay. It's just this, you know, no worries. Here, you know, you're going to have your own unique experience, but here's, you know, some common occurrences, kind of what to expect, a little, you know, nothing culty.
but you know, it's like for the most part, the Sonic Portal experience is always like, I was an atheist until December of 2020. And the Sonic Portal experience was always a non-religious, non-denomination, even spiritual. Like if you had a spiritual experience, I nurtured that. But for the most part, it wasn't something that I believed in. And honestly, I was doing the right thing for the wrong reason for many years. And I didn't have the right context for what I exactly was doing. So, you know, my intuition and my soul took my ego hostage and made me rock star this shit until I had my own awakening with it. So, you know, it's like we're in for a total rebranding now. It's like Sonic Portal 3.0 is actually going to become the Mantrayana, which is Sanskrit for sound vehicle. And, you know, it's like, you are the spaceship. We are the spaceship. The whole universe is inside each and every one of us. We're all a sliver of everything and or the all. And, you know, is helping people reconnect with that. And, you know, everyone's got their own dialogue and their own way to determine their experience and process things. And, you know, it's like giving people the freedom and the room to let that thing breathe and grow. Like it took me 2.5 months to integrate my experience, and it took a guru in a Hindu temple that was trying to fuck with me that realized she didn't need to, but I never had anybody forcing me to have a spiritual dialogue. So like, I had no idea that I even got opened up like that. And you know, I started reading the Bhagavad Gita and I started understanding it. And it was like, whoa, how do I understand a religious text? This all seemed like authentic Cajun gibberish before, you know? And that's the thing. You have that aha waking moment. You connect with everything, and you start, unless you're literally diving in, you're only getting little bits and tastes from your new perspective. You need to be forced to have some new thoughts outside of your hypnotic rhythm in your normal environment, right? It's like I literally left my environment, which was amazing, but there was no spiritual challenge there, and it took being with someone who wanted me to know, and then realized that I already knew. I just didn't know that I knew. It's really crazy.
That's awesome. Well, hey, we got
somebody coming in, right?
Yeah, we got somebody coming in. Topher, he's been super patient, and we actually met him this weekend. So we're gonna bring him in. Topher, what's up, my friend? How you doing?
How's it going, guys? It's good to be here.
What's up? Yeah, all the way from you're in Alabama. That's right?
Yeah, I'm in Auburn, Alabama.
Not too far from where we were just set up, which is cool, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So, do you mind telling us a little bit about your experience in the spaceship this weekend?
So it was my first experience in the spaceship. I kind of already knew what I was getting into, so I kind of like pre-prepared myself for that experience. Um, as I was actually in the ship, um, I definitely got sensory overload, so I had to just like surrender my nervous system to the shock. And once I did that, it was a very interesting experience. I can say definitely I could hear the people's voices and I knew they weren't talking, and it was all cross bleeding into each other. And as my focus was changing, I could hear the different voices making subtle noises, and then like it just stopped once all the gong kind of like stopped resonating. And wow.
Sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I the same thing happens to me. Is like you get to a point of this overstimulation, and you just got to surrender. And once you surrender to that sound, a lot of a magic can happen. But you got to get over that initial hump.
Yeah, the eyes closed and just engaging in the sound, and especially the first time, it can be a little much. And we've been taught to, allow people to understand if they feel overwhelmed with the sound, they can put their hands over their ears, just because sometimes they need it, and that everybody's tolerance is slightly just a little bit different. But and especially at a music festival, it could be extra sensitive. So. But that's nice. And so, did you have any friends go into the portal with you, or anybody that you know? Check the portal.
Yeah, Randy Love was a buddy that I met this weekend, and he kind of like helped me along throughout the entire weekend, which was very prosperous, very kind of him. I can't thank him enough for that. He even gave me a ride home back from Soulfest to Auburn, which is like 3.5 hours away. And he left this morning to go back down to Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah, that's part of what makes a festival so wonderful, is that typically, almost everybody you run into, even complete strangers, just have the empathy you wish everybody would have every day and everywhere in life, right? So people kind of have your back, not judging you, not getting their ego involved, and it's just a beautiful space. A wonderful thing that we're so fortunate. If you think the last generation ago, I mean, they were like, you'd say music festival, what is that? And all of a sudden we have actually beautiful experiences, and so many people coming together is part of why I think why they're so powerful. Like you said earlier about how when you meditate by yourself, it's one thing, but then when you have a collective meditation, that amps it up. The gong in and of itself is just the other energies with you.
Definitely.
Yeah, in any experience, it's kind of like that. I learned this actually in coaching, and I had no idea. It's like, there's the argument: do you do group coaching? Do you do one-on-one coaching? What do you do? And I mean, the answer is really probably a little bit of both, ultimately, because one of the things about one-on-one, it's great, is that you get that individualized attention, right? Like, just like in meditation. But in the group can cue off of each other, and they can kind of ride a wave, right? Like, they can build momentum with all of their energy collective in a synergistic way. And the same is true really with anything. But understanding that, like, that people are like, able to shift their limiting beliefs because they can notice other people, that's a pretty powerful practice. I think that's definitely something that comes through in the portal for sure, is like everyone's energy is there and you're all with each other, building.
That term coined now, they call it collective effervescence. And this is sort of like some sort of corporate lead or some writer created it, but nonetheless, it's sort of what they're using for these corporate retreats. They're offering sort of spiritual experiences, and of course they're going to get into this, like who wouldn't, because it's the next step, I think, in a lot of the therapies we're going to see, and they're evolving, and so it's wonderful to be on these first waves of being, offering these wonderful experiences. And so when you went into the portal for your first time, you said you had some expectations. But what were some things that happened that you weren't expecting other than the overwhelming sounds? I mean, did you have some interesting thoughts or perspectives change?
So I have done a number of meditations, and I know I can't focus on one thing solely all the time, so it kind of fluctuates in between two. Being in like a multiple frequency shell, I was picking up on multiples simultaneously that were just floating around, and it was hard to focus on just one because it was like every 2 or 3 seconds it would go to the next frequency.
Yeah, the acoustic bubble, it turns out, essentially you're on a quantum level, you've increased the capacity within the sound when you cover the acoustic bubble of the ear. And there's like a quantum shift in the sound. So it took the sound from being somewhat effective to being very effective. And so it's just like putting headphones on if you don't have access to a sonic portal spaceship. But the acoustic bubbles of the ears are very effective and efficient. And then that's what's really exciting for this therapy is because it's so efficient that and so effective. It gets right to the root cause. It doesn't require a whole bunch of ongoing expensive therapies with all kinds of supplements and all this, fancy jazz. And it's not, like you said, to keep it simple principle. I think it's within the gong space the portal's providing. And my man is a trooper for hitting the road. And I know being on the road is challenging in and of itself, regardless of what industry you're at. But at a festival when nights are late and mornings are early, and amenities are limited, and so comfort is limited, and so you make it happen, man. So congrats on how many years you've been on the road now, bro.
14, but a year and a half of that nobody was on the road, so but I was actually still doing gong meditations during the pandemic. We still had a lot of people that were struggling locally, and we gave them the opportunity to check out for a little bit. And I would say that the prolonged 15, 20, and 30-minute sessions we were doing in our basement were super powerful. But it's crazy is like at the festival, we do 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes is life changing as well. I mean, my shamanic dismemberment came with 12 minutes. And I mean, I cried for an hour afterwards. It was like the biggest, most awesome release that I'd ever had, So it's like, I think that the people who don't have a context, and the more we make jokes, and the more we lower the expectation to those going in, and make them laugh and make them feel like they're being entertained, the more that their mind doesn't grab onto things and they don't take it serious, and then their heart is like, ha ha ha, the mind doesn't know, and kind of steps right up and takes the show.
Nice. And so what are your visions for the next 14 years of expanding the portal step to see how that sort of resonates its way through the universe? You have any goals?
I definitely have a goal. And originally, this whole thing was Gong the Planet. In our original thing, we started a healing center called the Conduit, and like any band that's all friends and you don't really communicate, we eventually realized that we all, we had a guitarist that wanted to play country, and a drummer that wanted to play metal, and a bassist that wanted to play jazz. We all had different visions, and so eventually that Conduit broke up, and we were the Gong the Planet. It was our road thing, and the Conduit was the center. And the road thing was supposed to bring, traffic to the center. And after a little bit, there's a lot of people in the gong industry and meditation. People were fighting over the word gong bath. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Spaceship really came about. People were mad that I didn't get my provisional self-esteem certificate from whoever they felt I needed to learn from. And so I was just like, you know what? This is a spaceship now. I'm playing an instrument. I'm not healing anybody. Let's see, hop in, take a ride, see where it takes you. And the more that I did that, the more that other people in the country realized that I was probably the best marketing plan, because I'd gong 5,000 people in a weekend in an area, and then I would leave, and that would leave 5,000 people who knew what a gong was now, and they would look for their local gong player. So eventually, the Gong the Planet was originally, so I had experience at Alex Gray's, and the Cosmic Christ, which is a giant linen piece of art that he had, literally spoke to me and told me I needed to Gong the Planet. And I was like, all right. And it was like, I was opened up for like 3 weeks. It was an amazing experience with all my friends. And, I was like, I'm going to get one of these and leave a pair in every country. And, but we were only doing it by the chair, sitting in two gongs in a chair at the time. And so the thought was, I need to leave 2 of these gongs in every state to make sure this is all happening. Well, after my experience recently, and I realized what I had been doing, and that I had actually been using the wrong indicator of success to determine, what was going on with my decision to do this. I realized that I got to go back to that Gong the Planet vision, and I'm really working on a nonprofit and leaving a spaceship in every state, in a few different countries, and because ultimately traveling with this stuff is rough on the instruments, and when I leave, the healing stops. And really, I want people to be able to know where they can go next and still experience the things that we've been doing, and integrate these new healing centers into multiple healing modalities, and just give people the opportunity to pick from a plethora of things that can continue their healing or start their healing. Because emotional freedom, once you have emotional freedom, and every day you wake up with a smile on your face, and the things that are tough aren't so tough anymore. Really, it's I best state it in the way is if you're a level 3 problem solver dealing with level 5 problems, life is pretty fucking difficult. But if you're a level 7 problem solver dealing with those same level 5 problems, they're service nuisances. So it's us learning how to have, the healthy coping mechanisms and a way to deal with fear and uncertainty. And really, it's just get out of our own way emotionally. Mentalism is the first cosmic law of the universe, and most everything you do happens in the mind before it becomes a reality. And so most people are literally using their own magic on themselves, as I was. I was definitely destroying myself with my imagination and my energy and emotion. And, once you learn how to harness that, point it into some different directions, and put that energy into creations and problem solving or solution searching, because I don't even like to think of problems. I like to think of solutions. It's really putting together a full package for people. And now it's I created this psychedelic spaceship because nobody came to the healing parts of the festival. I get 20 yogis would show up. And after, nobody commented, I was like, fuck this. We're putting lights on it. We're calling it a psychedelic spaceship. And we're gonna service a few thousand people a weekend, because I'm not trying to be that guy that's, trying to, solve, everybody's, all the seekers' problems. It's at that moment when I came up with that, and creating a different, a different vibe, and kids could handle that, so that spaceship handle. But now it's as I've grown up and my philosophies have grown up, it's really about you are the spaceship, and we're the space station, giving you a chance to dock and figure out how to fly it, right? And giving you some tools to navigate. And so it's really the Mantrayana is the Sonic Portal 3.0. And I really look forward into bringing other modalities into it, especially breath work and some of the retreat type settings. It's I've tried to do get people to take breaths at the festival, and some people know what it is. It's like speaking about religion. Some people know, some people don't. Some people are uncomfortable, and it just creates this weird group activity instead of just telling everyone to take a deep breath. So, but breath work has the potentiality, same as gongs, to bring you to a place that the gongs bring you to, and so do a lot of modalities. You know, it's like this one is just one that I resonate with on a very high level, and you know, I look forward to showcasing other gifted practitioners who wish to share their gift with the world, and that's a lot of what the Blue Collar Mystics is about, is finding the people who are working in these fields and you know, working together and showcasing them. You know, even like you and I have been talking about a lot of things, and it's amazing how you and I have parallel goals, even having not talked to each other until just a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
We're on the same path, doing the same stuff, and it's just, you know, it's really you know, I feel blessed to be able to do what I do and create what I create. You know, it's like I write comedy. I've just finished my 5th script of a comedic screenplay, and you know, it's like I'm constantly working on all kinds of little projects that make my soul happy, and I want to teach other people how to do that. So you fucking hate your job, stop going there. It's okay. You know, it's like people are so caught up in their idea of the fear of what will happen if they just surrender to their own self. You know, it's like I've coached thousands of people to just quit their jobs because they are unhappy. I've never dealt with that unhappiness of being at a place for a few dollars, you know, and you know, it's like if we hold on to our idea of what we think we need to accomplish or what we need to think we're responsible for, but it all, you know, the worst case scenario rarely happens. That's just shit in our head, man. And once you step out into the unknown and start following your soul, only good stuff happens, but you have to trust yourself. So that's my rant.
Yeah, that's cool. We got a couple of questions in the chat, if that's cool. We can take.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a fiery rant. I did enjoy and appreciate that. I hope people are keyed up after that one. Keyed up. All right. So here's one question we have. Are gongs better transmitters of these tones than singing bowls?
I mean, I think it's really a question of preference. You know, singing bowls are powerful. I had a friend that cleared his carpal tunnel syndrome with singing bowls. And they definitely, you know, it's like I have a nice, awesome singing bowl. I don't use it at festivals other than for a tip bowl because you can't hear it in that environment. You know, it's like people definitely can clear your energies with a singing bowl. It's like I don't think it's really a matter of what's better. I think it's a matter of the environment and what's being called for and prescribed, and you know what the practitioner has at their fingertips to be able to deliver.
I also think you have to look at what symptoms you're treating. And so, as you mentioned with the carpal tunnel syndrome, if, say, for example, I have a hip issue and there's a lot of pain and discomfort in my hip, then the practitioner can place the singing bowl on the hip itself and then play the singing bowl on the hip if it's a small metal singing bowl. And so that's nice because the bowls offer those applications to treat area-specific things that may arise. But basically, the singing bowl is really just a shrunken down gong in a way. And so it's just not as powerful, but again, it does offer those unique things where it could treat certain areas in the body. And at the end of the day, when you're playing shamanic music, the more tones you have, the more sounds, the better, really, because you know we're exploring all these beautiful tone spaces. So the bowl just adds one more additional complementary tone space, and it's always just more the merrier.
They're both idiophones too. They're both literally the same, you know, style of instrument. But you're right. It's like it doesn't really give you it's more of a direct thing. It doesn't have that loud, expansive thing. But yeah, it's really a matter of what's prescribed at the moment. And the people who use bowls, you know, especially if they've been using them for a while, really know how to use them well and very mindfully and you know, with good intention and all these things. They have good practice. But, you know, it's definitely more fine-tuned. It's more, you know, like it's a higher wave and shorter wave. So it's like you gotta work them a little bit different.
Yeah, I'll also throw in there that you can also get forked. You know, we have a friend who has the tuning forks, and I haven't experienced those yet, but a lot of people that we know and have talked to, and I know you and Chance are going to actually get to link up here pretty soon at Rekinection, which is awesome. But Chance Garton is a student of the tuning forks, and that's also another modality to explore. You know, there's a bunch, and it's really cool. I'm certainly not an expert in it, but I'm excited to learn more about it. My friend Ham Cow, I call him Ham Cow. That's a fun nickname, right? Are there any handy dandy sonic supplements y'all recommend? I don't know, but handy dandy sonic supplements sounds pretty, that's got a great ring to it. Binaural beats, chants, guided meditations, etc.
I mean, you want to take that, Gene?
Yeah, so you can go down the rabbit hole of Kundalini Yoga, which is a yoga that focuses primarily on the breathing aspect of the body. Another really useful character that you can get behind and study with is called Wim Hof. He's famous for the ice baths and his core not changing. And so Wim Hof is essentially harnessing what the ancient yogi breathing practitioners were doing within the cultures. And so these are nothing brand new, but the way in which he presents his teachings is really fun. He just got a lot of heart, and he's a great teacher. And he has some YouTube videos that are very, very useful that you could follow along with for these breathing practices. Within the Kundalini yoga space, Yogi Bhajan, he was the first mystic to bring the gong music to America and Kundalini yoga to America. And so teacher Don Conroe, he was one of the few students that learned off of Yogi Bhajan when he first got here. So he has a lot of great videos, which are not only great lectures, but some different practices. Within the Kundalini yoga, you can Google the breath of fire, Ujjayi breath, spelled UJI, lion's breath, and maybe you guys can add some more if you remember any of those sequences. But there's quite a few within the yoga space that are very, very useful, and those will get you higher than a kite, I promise you. And my teacher had shared with me, through the early late 60s and early 70s, when the wave of hippies was really heavy into the plant therapy. Basically, they were too heavy into it and they needed to come off of it. Well, when they turned to Kundalini Yoga, they realized that they were able to get higher with Kundalini Yoga than they were with all the other substances. So they were easily able to walk away from all those substances that weren't good for their health because they were getting their fix and their therapy and health and healing through the breath work itself. And so then the breath work with the cold water. Now, I suggest trying this out if you're into sort of serving yourself all forms of self-love. Is the last 30 seconds of your shower, all your hot water off and go completely cold. So this is, number one, it's a huge mental challenge. So it's going to help you realize that you can overcome these mental challenges. And it's not easy and it's not comfortable, but it's useful. And at the same time, you're also shocking your system, which is allowing your glandular system to milk hormones in your blood. So if you study anatomy, even just for a moment, you realize the hormones are running the show, and those are coming from the glandular system, which is milking them in the blood at all times. So the thyroid, you can the vowels, A, E, I, O, U. A is A, E, I, O, so and so on. You could do that cycle. That's a really nice way to stimulate the thyroid. And then the pituitary, I haven't shared with you yet, but there's an overtoning exercise Don taught me. And what you're going to do is take an inhale on the nose, and on your exhale, you're going to pronounce the sounds E and oo at the same time, and I'll do a demo real quick so you can hear it. E. And when you're engaging in this practice, the whole area of your skull here around your pituitary gland is vibrating, and you're helping secrete these hormones that the pituitary is storing. So these are really fun, effective ways. And of course, a lot of the teachers do different things that I'm not even aware of yet. I've just gone out of my way to figure out what things are useful and effective that I can practice easily, and they're instantaneously gratifying. There's no like, hey, practice for a couple of weeks and you're going to feel the difference. And you do one of these breath cycles, once really well, then you're going to go, wow, what's going on? I feel this. This is great. So I think another really fun thing to share with the group, which is right up the Mystic Alley here, is the Healing Through the Chakras book by Joy Gardner. So after reading this book allowed me to understand all of our senses are operating on one relative spectrum. That same spectrum you can see with your eyes we call rainbow. That's the one relative spectrum. We're also hearing, smelling, and tasting, all on that one spectrum. So once you understand contrast within one spectrum, you can apply that contrast principle to all the spectrums. So when I first learned about this principle, I looked in my closet and I'm like, dude, there's no contrast in here. You look at the walls in your house, they should have contrast. You look at the things you put in the air to smell and the foods you're tasting, there should be contrast, whether it's the color of them or the smell. In these contrast principles, once you program your space, then it's all automatic. You're on autopilot. You don't have to think about it anymore. But you have to understand and learn about the contrast principle first. In this book, it's called Healing Through the Chakras by Joy Gardner. And she's a beautiful writer, very easy to understand, not a very long read, and it really turned around my understanding on how I navigate my own environment. Like we have the body's a spaceship, but our house is also a spaceship. So it's important to maintain the order and also create effectiveness in your spaceship, which is our house. So you can look at your wall colors, apply these contrast principles, get aromatherapy in life, and also apply aromas, and make sure your diet, what you're eating, is full of colorful foods. And you watch how your mood and your hormones will themselves. And so I'll share a fun experience what I've discovered, and it's a shower sequence, right? And so you do the Kundalini yoga breath, and then the hot water goes from hot to cold. And at the end, I engage in the locks, the bandhas, and then the cold water hits, and I go into the euphoric Kundalini space for about 15 minutes. And normally without the water, it was only about 5 minutes. So I can access the Kundalini, right? With a straight spine, within a matter of 15 breaths of fire. And then at the last one, you engage your four locks, right? We have the navel, the urethra, and the anus. And then the breath is the fourth. And when you engage all the, boom, the explosion comes, the energy's there. So it feels without the arousal or sexual arousal or ejaculation, it feels like I just had a crazy orgasm without those elements of it. So this energy explosion of euphoric sort of bliss, and you just float there for a bit. And so it's beautiful to be able to share these things with yourself, because it's like, hey, how much time do I have? 5 minutes, that's plenty of time. Perfect. You go through a couple little practices, and then you could just, like the bicycle pump, you don't carry around the pump after you get your air in the tire, right? You leave the pump where it's at. And so our spiritual practices are similar to that. We go to them when we need to get pumped up. We don't got to carry them around all the time. We don't got to constantly tell people about them and try to push them and try to sell people on these things. But we just got to practice and be a good servant leader. And I think people will notice and start paying attention and then asking you, hey, what are you doing? Because you're looking nice, you're feeling great, you got energy. And so it's there's some fun practices like that I've been picking up and practicing myself personally. I think the swimming pool, if you need some isokinetic exercise, that's a great asset to keep because there's no impact, or the pond or the lake or whatever water you have. But the breath is, yeah, like you said earlier in the podcast, the breath is completely underutilized, and that's something, it's a resource we can tap into at any point in time. And the sigh of relief, turns out everybody knows it. No one has to pass this knowledge on. It's stored in here, right? So we cough, we sneeze, we burp, we fart, we yawn, all automatic. Nobody teaches us any of those things, but we also have a sigh of relief that we do typically only subconsciously. So I realized this, I said, okay, I'm going to do these 10 of these in a row. So inhale the nose, exhale the throat, like you're fogging a mirror up. That's a natural sigh of relief that almost everybody is going to do at some point in time if you're with them enough, because you realize they feel overwhelmed, and what do? They let out a sigh of relief. They didn't plan on that. Their subconscious makes them do it because it knows it needs some relief. So if you just apply this one dose of relief, imagine if you just applied 10 of those doses of relief in a row. What do you get? All this relief. Oh my goodness. It's not rocket science, man.
It just reminded me while you're talking too is chanting. Like a lot of times when I'm in my own mind and whatever's, messed with the vibration, Om Mani Padme Hum. Mm-hmm. Just chant that, a bunch of times in a row, and it pulls my mind out of whatever fears or whatever weirdness that hasn't happened yet, you know, that anxiety or.
That's that's what they call mantra meditation. It sounds like you're describing.
Yeah.
I can share. So you're reminding me of the mantra meditation that I was taught. And so on your inhale, it's a cool blue ah, meaning temperature is cool, color is blue, and sound is ah. On the exhale, it's a warm orange E. So it goes from cold to warm, from blue to orange, and from ah to E. These sounds, you're just imagining them in your spit. When you focus on all three of those elements on both the inhale and the exhale, your mind doesn't have any capacity to run down those hallways it's typically trying to do. You force it to stay. That's why it's called mantra meditation, meaning protection. Mantra in Sanskrit means protection.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Man.
Good stuff.
Topher, how about you, man? You got any practices you recommend to folks? Anything you like doing? Do you do breath work? Do you do daily meditations? Do you work with sound at all? I know you're a smart guy. We talked a bit at the festival, so I'd love it if you wouldn't mind. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'd love it if
No,
you
actually, I thoroughly am glad that you asked that. I got a whole list, really.
Cool.
So I used to have really bad anxiety. It was bad enough to where it was crippling anxiety, and it became agoraphobia, to where I was in my room for like 6 months, crippled over in my bed, constantly crying from pain. So I was sitting there and I thought, what's the opposite of sadness? And I was like, happiness. Okay, so that's a chemical response. How can I release these chemical responses? So like a good friend of mine before she passed kind of gave me this information of, hey, give me a hug. It doesn't count unless it's 30 seconds long. So you're like releasing all these endorphins, serotonins, and like dopamines, and it's really changing. You know, it's the same thing as sitting inside of the gongs, really, without that hug. So I kind of created a list. Definitely hydration, because hydration, like water, increases the volume of the blood, increases the oxygen flow to the brain. I started taking every 3 or 4 days of like 5-HTP to kind of regulate that serotonin release, so it wasn't just all at once and I'd just be super happy or super sad. I started doing CBD treatments to kind of help me with like relaxing the muscles and the nervous system. I do not recommend it for everyone, but if they are curious, I would like to see them try. Let's see, binaural beats. As of that, I did use a certain few, but it wasn't more of a music thing. It was purely frequency. That kind of helped me put to sleep. I had insomnia from overthinking. So I started using blue lotus flower, like right there, 20 minutes before I would go to sleep. Just kind of put me in that lucid dream state and calm myself as much as I can. I bought a weighted blanket for that neural compression. That was super awesome. I started doing like air filters and stuff like that, and that was really cool.
Would you say air filter? What?
Yeah, like humidifiers and dehumidifiers. Kind of increase the oxygen in the air, like plants and stuff like that. I started doing magnesium sulfate baths every other night and take 5-HTP, because like when my anxiety attacks would happen, lactic acid would like build up, or not 5-HTP. I would take folic acid, because the lactic acid buildup was making my muscles so sore I couldn't move. So I would take the folic acid and then jump in the bath and soak down, get out of the bath, and I'd feel like I could actually move. I started taking a supplement called Ormus to increase neural pathways and dead ends. and just pure meditation kind of like over time from all the trauma and PTSD I was giving myself or actually having is like, how can I focus on meditating for manifesting my life to be better? And honestly, it hasn't come out any better than it has now. Like, it has been happening since the past 6 to 8 months in order. And it's just like, yo, I thought of this like last year. Like, how can I focus on my future? How can I take those baby steps to kind of build instead of look like at one A to Z? I'm taking those little steps to get to that. And that's like super amazing because this weekend showed all the evidence of that. I was somewhere, got to a show, basically, friend called me up and was like, hey, you want to come to this show? I was like, I can't. And they're like, no, you're coming to this show. And I'm like, okay, so I'm getting kidnapped. So I packed very primitive. I only brought like $60. That definitely didn't last. But yeah, it all ended up great. I met some of the loveliest people in the world. I can't wait to see them back on the road again.
Nice, man. That was really insightful. Thank you for sharing, man. What a great transformative approach. And who was it or what was it that was helping you find these solutions, and where were you going to seek them?
I was actually coming up with these solutions myself. I would just look up on the internet because a long time ago I used to read Eastern medicine. So like I just think about my body, how I'm feeling, just listen to myself and then like be like, oh, well, okay, that's this. So instead of just focusing on it like that, let me figure out what research I can do or studies I can do, to find these answers that I probably can give myself.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like what you said at the beginning of the rant, how it was a chemical makeup within your body that was certainly achievable if given the right environment, right? And so Buckminster Fuller been one of my big inspirational mentors that I listen to and pay attention to a lot, and he has a lot of great useful affirmations. And this one reminds me how he says, listen, man is so perfectly wonderful, we need not try to change him. It's just our environment is flawed. It needs reorganized. And so that's beautiful. You were able to recognize that and seek on your own, because it takes a lot of insight, and you have a good IQ, man, thankfully, and you can, navigate and make those steps of progress, which is beautiful, man. You're doing great, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Bruce Lipton preaches that too. Put the cell in a new environment, and then the cell will fix itself in the proper environment. And
exactly.
So, yeah.
It's one of Napoleon Hill's 7 laws from outwitting the devil is environment.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Yeah, right.
Something
in the universe, and was what it's telling you and helping you understand is that everything is essentially repeating. So that's why we're all so much one and the same and on these same trajectories, because everything is essentially these repeating patterns within patterns within patterns. It's beautiful, and your insight is to address your challenges with supplements. Those pretty kick butt, and I'm just happy to hear about that, because lately I've seen that supplements kind of get a bad rap, and they're just sort of money hungry. But again, I always say, well, if you're addressing deficiencies, they can be very useful, and you're proving certainly that you had some deficiencies to address, and the chemical makeup wasn't where it needed to be. And so addressing them through supplements and being mindful of that. And you got to share your message, man, because there's a lot of people need to learn what you've learned and what you're doing.
So also, just thoughts are like habits, I kind of picked this up from a YouTube. I do not own the rights, but I think I can say the names and titles and stuff. So Akira the Dawn has a music video, and basically it's novel wave about how habit forming. So like if I'm constantly having negative habits, I'm constantly going to have negative things around me and myself. If I change those habits of positive habits just slowly, it may take longer, but it will happen if I'm on top of it. I continuously put myself in check. Eventually I'll create those like things around me after my health, my family's health, like my titles of what I want as careers later on. I'll have more backup versus the negativity because of how people view you or how everything just happens in itself.
It's like that's the beginning. Once you become aware of those negative thoughts and the habit to have negative thoughts and negative responses, literally that is the habit at that point. And once you change that habit and you start to get to a point where it's 50-50, that's where you really start to see those changes come into play. And once you get past 50-50, that's where realignment happens, and really our habits crystallize our now. There's only one moment, and it's now. And if you have a habit that creates a negative energy balance in the now, well, that's what your future now is going to be as well. And so it's really about controlling our minds and how we perceive our world and how we think something is good or bad, right? It's like when you start thinking about bad and good, it can get pretty weird because it's really about discomfort right now, right? And so I don't like this or I don't like that. But ultimately, a lot of the things, this world is run on vibration. Vibration goes up and it goes down. And all the time that when those bad things happen, that's a down vibration and it's going to go back up and it's going to bring something good. But we get trained and tricked into thinking that, oh, this bad feeling is going to be bad forever. And we got to avoid this bad thing. And really, it's like our brain is just, our ego is trying to protect us from this uncomfortable moment or our pain or whatever. But it is those habits. And even if you can get your mind to focus, because it's ultimately mentalism is the number one cosmic law of the universe. And we're actually just finishing up a mentalism course right now for email. Once we control our thoughts, we have control over our reality. And, the more you try to control things outside of you, the more that the reality and the world and the universe pushes back, And so ultimately we have control over our thoughts, how we feel, and how we respond. And that's all we have control over. But we think from our upbringing and our trauma and the things that our coping mechanisms, we think that those automations are just response. It's the way you respond to the world when something bad has happened, right? And we get caught and locked into these patterns. But yeah, you're right. Habits is everything, man. It's like, it's literally what controls your now is how you decide to behave in that now and how you continuously act in that now, which will become your crossroads of your future eventually.
Yeah, man, I agree. And I want to share the Ben's Virtues, which is something I came across after reading the Benjamin Franklin autobiography. It's a beautiful book, and he shares with you this system he developed on a ship ride, and it's a 13 virtue system. And you practice one virtue per week, and even on an app for Android and iPhone. It's free, so I suggest everybody go download it. It's called Ben's Virtues, and this is a self-accountability chart to sort of navigate your way through developing virtuous habits. And so let's say order is your virtue this week. Order means keeping everything in order, right? And so we're going to try to practice that the best we can every day. But if, for example, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we weren't very orderly, then we would put a mark on our calendar. And the goal is not have any marks on your calendar at the end of the cycle. So I did it wholeheartedly for one 13-week cycle. And I got to tell you what, it was mind-blowing because when you get back to week one, you could see how you've changed your habits and your attitudes and your values to realign with a virtuous habit. When before it was just the condition that was passed on to you. That's all you're operating with. Unless you choose to reprogram your habits, you just get whatever was passed on, man.
Yeah, I have a tattoo on my wrist. It says HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And it means stop in the acronym. And whenever I'm one of those things, I can look down at my wrist and I'm like, oh shit, I got to stop right now and like reconfigure, reevaluate what my output is. And on the other side, it's a vibration. So it's stop and check my vibration. And after I was super angry at one point in my life, and I got to a point where I was catching myself being angry and then building a new habit. And after a while, that habit got to be about 50%, where I was only responding negatively half the time. And then it got more to be like 75. And then, it's like that when you continuously follow that habit, it's leading you into that groove. And, the first couple weeks, it's like habit's a double agent too. It takes 3 days to pick up a bad habit and 30 days to start a new one, to start a good one. Right. And like imagination, it can ruin you or set you free, and so, yeah, I'm glad you brought habits up. That's such a major thing for growth. And really it comes down to self-awareness, right? Is until you're aware of any of these things, like it's anxiety, right? You have all this anxiety and you're responding and you're like, life is crazy. And you just think that's the way things are until you become aware of, oh, this is how I'm fucking behaving right now. And this isn't reasonable. This is just my imagination creating my idea of what may happen, right? And once we can get a control and become aware of those things and then change those habits, it's like magic definitely opens up.
Someone asks, do you think singing changes your vibration?
Absolutely. It's better if you sing it. I sing everything all day long. I'm like, I'm going to clean my car. I'm going to do those dishes.
Yeah, I recently read this book. I'm going to put it in the chat, called Electric Body, Electric Health by Eileen Day McCusick. It was the one that Chance recommended me, and it really did tie the room together because, she's talking a lot about electricity as energy, basically, and ultimately vibration, right? Like this duality. That's how electricity works. And really talks a lot about each chakra and what they represent, like where blockages happen. There were some very interesting coincident things that had to do with different blockages and different chakras as well. Like, and she talked a lot about actually singing and speaking your truth, and how, I can't remember which side of your throat it was, but like there would be symptoms in your throat one way or the other for not speaking your truth. And then, in the other side of the throat was like not being heard, and so there were like these different ways to sort of balance things out that she talks about in that book. That's fascinating. Very, very, very interesting. I recommend checking it out. It's a cool book.
Well,
it's Electric Body, Electric Health. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Your throat's tied to your thyroid, and when you're
exactly
aging and milking your thyroid, which is one of the 3 major glands everybody has, the thyroid, the pituitary, and then it's either testicles or ovaries. So when you sort of start focusing and gaining awareness of these glandular system, then all of a sudden you can then sort of value why you would want to engage in practices that are going to milk hormones naturally into your blood. I mean, we're all kind of carrying these beautiful gifts of hormones. We get them when we sleep, when we exercise, when we have intimacy, when we eat good food. And there's other ways, of course, to access those, and chanting, singing is a really beautiful way. And especially it's that blue throat chakra. And a lot of people have a closed down blue throat chakra because they don't feel like they can speak the truth. And that's a beautiful way to open up your throat, is just by singing and making sounds. You don't have to be, what would consider to be good on like the stereo. Just create sounds, whatever it is, just be playful.
Yeah. And, one of the things that Wim Hof, they teach, I took the fundamentals course and was fortunate enough to be able to go and do the Grimerica retreat with Brandon Powell, who's one of Wim Hof's instructors. And one of the things that they talk about is just like humming, just breathing in through your nose and then exhaling in a hum, just as long as you possibly can, because it brings your heart rate variability down, as well as your heart rate as well. And it evens you, it calms your nervous system by just basically you're kind of tickling the vagus nerve that connects the brain and the heart. So any sort of humming, which is actually, if you're learning to sing too, a great way to learn to sing on pitch. That's one thing another thing opera singers do is they do like they do their lips like that, and they sing along with it like that, so you can feel where in your face you're supposed to sing the note. But like humming, because you won't be thinking about the words, you'll be thinking about the actual note, and you'll hit that. But it's really, really therapeutic and really good for tickling the connector of the heart and the mind, and that's one of the things they talked about in the Wim Hof stuff. So just simply breathing and just humming, just like in 1 minute he shows you, just literally 1 minute, you take 3 breaths, and you can count your breaths. He's like, if you take more than I can't remember what the number was, maybe 15 breaths a minute, then you are stressed. I can't remember what it was, but it was 15, maybe 18, something like that. And and so you count them for a minute, then you do his exercise, and then you count them the next minute, and you're like, holy shit! Like you can tell how fast you're breathing. You're just, you're charged up, you're keyed, and that kind of like frenetic kind of energy, it doesn't do us a lot of good, really. If we can harness our energy better, then we can usually capitalize on that, and that's just one way to kind of calm down in the moment, literally in a minute, just humming.
I had a medicine woman from a tribe. I can't remember. It was Western Canada, and she was at the Eclipse Festival, and I went to a bunch of their workshops. And one of them, she talked about the deep sigh, but it's more like a sighing moan. And it is so relieving and so awesome, but it also sounds like it can scare the shit out of anybody that's just listening to you next to you, right? And so it's like, but it's like this breathing in and like making your diaphragm vibrate your heart and your lungs. And she would do 3 of these, and I did 3 of them with her. And man, I fucking felt so good. It was like, part of it could be like, you sit there with a teacher and you're really into what they're teaching too. But like when I remember to do it, it's a great way to just let the day's bullshit escape. It's just like, it's like a sigh with like a yell and a groan. And, they even tell you to kind of shake while you're doing it too. It's just like, just removing that excess potential.
Yeah. The square breathing can also address the anxiety symptoms you're dealing with, or anybody's dealing with. And so traditionally the square breath, of course, is going to start off with a small count, right? And so everybody's breath is typically pretty shallow, especially if they're in an anxiety mind state quite often. And so what you want to do is start up for like 3 seconds. And so what you do is do an inhale for 3 seconds, pause for 3 seconds, do the exhale for 3 seconds, and then pause for 3 seconds. So there's 4 parts to that square breath. Of course, that's why it's called that. And so each part you're counting. In week 1, you're at 3 seconds. Let's say week 3, you've now went up 1 or 2 seconds. And so then you fast forward, you see how that goes. You're going to continue practicing. You're going to continue adding seconds. But when you add length to your breath, you're decreasing your heart rate, you're increasing the oxygen in your blood, you're increasing the hormones getting in your blood, and you're flooding your nervous system with all this beautiful nourishment, the life force of the prana that's in the breath. And so I think you can tap into that. And any listeners also would like to engage in breath, that's another one you can find on YouTube, is someone to coach you through it if you're needing to learn it. But the other element of the anatomy that reminded me I should bring up is called the enteric nervous system. And the enteric nervous system is one of 3 nervous systems in the body. We have the central nervous system, which is the spine and the brain. And then we have a nervous system around the heart itself. And then the third is in the stomach. It's called the enteric. It has over 100 million neurons. It produces over 90% of the body's serotonin and about 85% or so of the dopamine. Dopamine and serotonin, as I'm sure everybody knows, is where the happiness, joy, and all that stuff is sort of hiding within that. And so it turns out that whenever you're just trying to remedy the central nervous system of the deficiencies and the challenges it has, you're only getting to a small portion of the body's needs. And so you have to look to go to fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, look at probiotics, prebiotics, look at how to address the disruptions in the nervous system, and you look at everybody's diets typically oversaturated in sugar. That's a huge disruption to this healthy bacteria that's balanced normally. And then we get that out of balance and it doesn't rebalance by itself. So you do have to supplement the diet in order to get that balance reestablished. And so there's also some tests out there where you can get your stool sample sent to a laboratory. They give you reports. They say, hey, here's your deficiencies. Here's the supplements you should consider to reestablish a good, healthy microbiome. And this nervous system runs the show. When you look at happiness, when you look at satisfaction, fulfillment, health, wellness, it all is running. It's running all that. The central nervous system, it's here to experience things through the senses, but chemically, the alchemy of the body is really relying on this enteric nervous system. And so there's a film, if anybody has Amazon Prime, you watch. It's called Your Gut, the Second Brain. And I know there's probably a lot of reiterations of that type of film out there on YouTube and what have you for free that you can find, and just immerse yourself in those instructional videos that help, download new information about this new nervous system. We're just figuring this out. So mental health specialists also treat their patients with these tests for, they test this stool sample from the gut, because if you're addressing mental health in any way, shape, or form, and you don't address the gut first, you're completely missing the whole boat. This central nervous system is a tiny, tiny portion of the chemicals getting into the blood. And so those are really important resources to have. I'm going to put them in the chat.
Cool.
They say that the gut is the second brain, like there's 50,000 nerves that are sending messages to your brain and system.
Yeah, and the vagus nerve, I'm not sure if it connects the heart also, but I know for sure it's, from what I gather, it's connecting the brain and the stomach. Maybe it's also connected to the heart. It wouldn't surprise me. But the vagus nerve, there's also exercises, as you mentioned earlier. There's different movement and breathing exercises that stimulate specifically the vagus nerve. And this whole new nervous system that I'm just learning about myself, being an athlete from the time I was 10 years old, I raced motocross. So we look for every ounce of performance out of the body, the mind, and the machine. And so we would go above and beyond to figure out how we can beat somebody, because that's competition. You only get paid if you win. And so I won a lot and was successful, but we also had really good habits to support the success. And so I was always looking to optimize performance from way, way early on as a child. And so it's interesting how I wind up in this position, and I'm realizing, like, wait a second, these music meditation spaces are optimizing performance because all the therapists and the doctors and people who are trying to treat the symptoms, they have very, very little success. I mean, they're doing the best they can, and I applaud them. But like, holy smokes, you got some kind of like rookies over here that are just creative people who want to explore this artistic side of their craft, and we're providing therapy that seems to be as or more effective than the most advanced Western things that are going on in those spaces. And you're like, holy smokes, this is awesome, man, because you see how beautiful this fruit is that we're getting to pick, right? It's just like the tree of forbidden fruit. We picked it and we're serving it, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting you touch on that, because like I thought I invented sound healing. There was no social media when I started doing this, and my only context was Grateful Dead a lot. But once I started learning about what the gong could do, I started realizing, because I was making movies and dealing with the FDA and food companies and all this stuff, and I realized that it's like, for instance, you take an orange and you say, this orange is nutrition and it tastes good, no big deal. But the moment that I say, I have an orange and I'm going to use this orange to treat your scurvy, well, now you're creating a medical situation that can be regulated by the FDA and can create lots of problems for you. And I quickly realized, it's like, man, I just want to play some instruments and share this thing with people. And like people like you, Gene, it's like I share with you, you got a longer experience than most, but you went and took it to a whole nother level on your own. And that's what, I like to pride myself as being a gatekeeper, is introducing the masses to this and helping them use it or integrate it into their life if they're not willing to use it, go out and purchase, a gong or whatever, but learning how to integrate it into their practice and knowing now what it can do for you. And, it's like, it's definitely a weird, weird landscape out there once you start saying, hey, I'm treating this or I'm healing this. And, it's like I've always kind of stepped away from that. But now, I'm 14 years deep in what I've been doing. And I know a whole lot more about it than I did when I first started playing and creating that brand. And the next step is creating space for people to be intentional with it. And, finding the right verbiage to not have to jump through the hoops and get a $250,000 license or whatever it is they want you to do this week,
Yeah, there's going to be some hurdles navigating the entrance into these areas, but the good thing is whenever we can start treating the first responders and these different cultures within the community. So you got to remember, if we're saving lives, we're also generating more tax money. How could they not support that? Come on, man. That's what they. So it's like I think there's almost nobody really, if you look at it, other than the emergency people in that space. They're like, they're taking phone calls and they're dealing with these emergency situations. But there's not a lot of maintenance systems out there that keep people from getting to those emergency situations. Because let's face it, if you can manage the symptoms before they kind of snowball into something overwhelming and uncontrollable, when someone has those not crazy thoughts, then that's beautiful. And it's great you're introducing the music culture to it. What I'm learning in the space of sort of therapy is that I have zero interest in sharing therapy with someone who's not asking for it. So I'll do a fun musical experience, but it won't be in a therapeutic context if it's just someone who doesn't have the appetite to kind of look at it and sort of want to gain that experience. And so that's cool. But then you realize there's also a lot of people that are asking, that will find you and they will seek you out. And they realize they've become aware enough to go, hey, like this guy down here, he's like, hey, man, there's got to be a better way to treat what's going on because nobody else is giving me solutions. So they find their own, they seek you out. And it's beautiful because someone who's asking for it is so receptive and they're ready.
Yeah, I'm definitely channeling the Heoka medicine, man, tricking people into it. But yeah, definitely, it's like, in the music festival, we'd leave a lot of room. We are performing and it's a performance and it's a big character act, we're putting on a big show and making it fun. And those people do have positive experiences. And very rarely do we ever have somebody that's like, that fucking sucked, and even more so when we do, I'm even really curious why they didn't like it, because I'm not attached to them liking it all. I want to know, like, wow, what did we do different to, shake the vibration in this one? And, even then they might not have liked it, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have residual results weeks later from that experience either. It's definitely, I'm stepping into a whole new brand and building a different persona with it, and trying to blend the two together without being too medical or too spiritual, but acknowledging those values. And that's ultimately what broke up the original band. One person thought that it was healing, another person thought it was spiritual, and I thought it was psychedelic. I went with the entertainment aspect of it. And so, yeah, all three of them are super valid and should be addressed in one way or another when, dealing with these instruments.
Excellent. I wanted to ask you also in terms of the new updates to the latest version of the portal. Are you sharing any of that just yet? Or you want to talk about any of the details in terms of the crystals and what have you?
Oh, yeah. So it's amazing. Like when I had my healing experience in there in 2020 Christmas, it was just two gongs. It was a Sound Creation and a Tesla gong that I have. And Tesla's like a bronze cast. And man, that ripped me apart, put me back together. And when it put me back together, it excluded all the shitty trauma that was in my life. And it was like I felt 80 pounds lighter, and I really started to see, like, because people would come out of there all the time. They'd say, "Don't ever stop," and they'd have tears, and they'd be like, "This is amazing. It changed my life." And then we come out of there, and be like, "How do I get that?" Right? It's like, holy shit, like, and then it happened to me, and And it happened to me at just the right time when I kind of lost, I wouldn't say faith in it, because I mean, it was still serving other people, but it wasn't serving me emotionally anymore in the context that it was, because I was falling apart on the road. And then it reinvigorated me. I felt like I was getting old. I mean, I literally lost 10 years of like age. It was, I had the same pep in my step. I mean, it totally realigned me, put me in complete realignment. And ever since then, I've been, toying with old ideas. But yeah, it's like now we're picking a better rig. Steel isn't good. Copper's too expensive and it bends too easy. And so, we're going with solid oak struts and putting orbs on the outside to pull in that energy, points on the inside to direct it, an orb on the roof to pull that energy from out of the gong space, and then to a crown antenna to point it to the cosmos. And, before I didn't really believe my rhetoric as much, but, for me to create a psychedelic spaceship, be transported out of my body into another dimension and completely healed and then brought back, I would say that my attack on the New Age movement was quite successful, because I didn't have a religious domination. I wasn't following anybody's system. I was completely doing it out of my own creation. And, I totally believe that anybody can really tap into these vibrations, not necessarily gongs, but just the vibration of their creations, and really create anything. And if they give themselves a little bit of credit. And so, when I finally got healed inside of this thing and traveled to another galaxy, it was like, well, like I said, psychedelic spaceship isn't a metaphor anymore, And so at this point, the rig that I'm using, you pulled into the 220 or the 2.0 version, which was all gold, powder coated and super nice. But nobody, a lot of people liked that one, but they liked the prototype better, the smaller one. And so for me, it was like, all right, we ran with that prototype for 14 years. That's how good it was. And now it's like, all right, all these old ideas that are sitting on the table need to be implemented. And it's like we put LED lights around it and stuff. Now we're going to be projecting onto it. And so it's really about, having a good solid space, having protection. One of my shamans was like, hey, you're running a smorgasbord for spirits. Bad spirits and good spirits are showing up, and like they're just chowing down on all this energy. And so, working on, protection sigils and adding the elements and other things subtly, though, it's like not up in people's faces, but, making it there and just, adding a little extra care to what it is that we're doing. It's like ultimately, it's sort of like a phone booth to God, if you're really going to give yourself the time to, I hate using the word God. I like creator source or infinite intelligence or whatever. But, it is a phone booth to your higher self, to your soul, as long as you're willing to listen and put that energy in, surrender. Ultimately, it wasn't until I surrendered that I got my experience. And if you go in there with a closed mind, it's just going to be some fucking noise. It's just going to be a bunch of hippies banging on some frying pans, and but you go in there with an open mind and some magic can happen. So we're really going to expand the visual aspect of it, but there's a lot of subtleties that I'm adding in to really pay homage to all the magicians and healers and people who came before me and did a lot of work. It's like my shaman, when he came to the house, he was only supposed to come for a 4-day ceremony. And then when they found the gongs in the basement, it was like an omen for them, because they had mentioned that they had just gone to a gong ceremony, and they really didn't move them. But his wife had a vision of a gong circle with blue lights, and they came in my basement, and it was a gong circle with blue lights, and they're like, we have to stay. And I learned a lot about the energy that I was wielding and my own potential through that interaction. And now it's just finding creative and clever ways to subtly layer all that stuff in. And so that's basically been the main focus, and we hope to unveil that for Electric Forest this year. And that's the current trajectory of that. And it's a whole different production. Everything is a lot heavier, and there's a lot more to it. Lots of moving parts. So I'm still working on making that all work. But I've never put together anything in my head regarding this project without it not working. So I feel like it's intuition that's being sent to me more than me being creative and thinking about it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to share it with you, man. You're going to be there for 3.0. You were there for 2.0. 10 years later, 3.0. So it's going to be a really great time getting the band back together.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, it's going to be an amazing summer. Where is the portal going to be again when you list the places publicly?
So we're going to be doing a secret Saturday night set at Rekinection in Missouri. I don't know the actual town of that festival. I haven't looked it up yet. And then we got summer camp at Chillicothe, Illinois, Memorial Day weekend, Sonic Bloom. I believe it's the weekend of, pull up my calendar real quick. So Sonic Bloom is the weekend of the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And then Electric Forest will be the following weekend, the 23rd through the 26th in Rothbury, Michigan. And then, of course, I'm making a stop at Black Rock City in Nevada to top off the summer. And we got some stuff planned for the fall, but a lot of those don't start to, take form until, July and August. And, I really like the fall better because the heat isn't such a terror. And so I'm really looking forward to that fall leg. But those first five festivals, they really are key factors into pulling together the revenue to finish this project and to share with the world. And really, finally, the prototype worked. I had an idea, I put it together, we made it overnight, and the thing was so damn awesome. We never stopped using it. And now it's time to take that same concept to the next level, and I'm super stoked to be able to do that.
Yeah, so somebody in the chat just said no West Coast. Oh yeah, we'll be in.
That's Birdie Man. Birdie Man's West Coast.
Yeah.
And Colorado's almost there. It's only 14 hours away.
Yeah, and Mount Shasta next February with the Grimerica guys too. So that'll be something else, So all kinds of cool stuff is coming up, which is awesome. Topher, tell us a little bit about where folks can find you, what you're working on, anything you want to share, any links or promotional kind of stuff.
So people can find me on Facebook under Christopher Thomas Ward. It'll be a fractal orb if you look at the image. On my Instagram, you can find me at TopherCon. That's TOPHERKOHN. If you like to contact me anyway through there or something for business like graphic design or photography or painting, I do all those things. I also do production, so you can kind of look at my resume through there if you like. But yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much for sharing. Gino, please tell us a little bit about what you're working on and where people can find you.
So we are working on getting the studio space launched here in sort of just a primitive version of what the Sanctuary Retreat experience will be. I'm going to hit the road with Sonic Portal for a couple stops, one, maybe two. I'm try to get the Burning Man as well. Maybe even some more throughout the fall and off winter. I managed to segue downtown Pittsburgh from May to October for the past 13 years. So I'm working. And I shipped the issue for and teach people how to ride the Segway. So that's a lot of fun, but be busy in the summer months. Sort of pays the bills, and then I have 6 months of creativity and fun time off where I can just enjoy and relax and explore art forms and some different things. So photography, I build website. My Instagram is Pattern 30. In the retreat site, Healthy Living Spirit or Healthy Living Spirit. And so it's exciting to see the integration of the sound space with the experiences I can provide. But we also have, like I said, a mental health specialist that'll be doing ketamine treatments here at the retreat space. And so I'm hoping to find some other doctors that'll sublease the space. I know my teacher, Don, will come over and host a retreat here on Admiral. And so it'll be sort of a multifunctional space for different creatives and mystics, healers, and artists. And so it's going to be fun to share this platform. And I'm thinking, like all these other beautiful experiences that keep on multiplying themselves, like the music festivals. Well, we have now one of the first brick and mortar sort of gong experiences that goes above and beyond. Maybe this will start multiplying itself. We'll have access to these, brick and mortar type portals as well as going to the festivals. And I think, we're just going to continue like the fractal we are and just continue to duplicate what's great. And so I'm excited to share it. And it's been wonderful sharing space and conversation with you fellas and for all your insight, input, and knowledge. And it's been wonderful, and happy to come back on anytime and chat more about how we can support the blue collar mystic. And you guys got an awesome podcast, man.
Dude, thank you so much for being here, man. I'm really excited to meet you and really stoked, man. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. I would love to have you back very, very soon. Topher, thank you so much as well, man. Thank you so much for hopping in here. We'll be in touch. Let's talk about getting some stuff together. Things are happening. Thanks, everybody out there. Click the link below and grab the blueprint, working on that 8-day minimalism course, the Admiral's 8 days sent directly to you. That'll be a big part of that whole thing. So go ahead and do that. Sign up for it. It'll come out on the 15th. And we have some big announcements coming up. Be sure to follow Sonic Portal on Instagram, as well as Gino, Healthy Living Spirit. That's also the name of his website. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you so very, very much. And have a wonderful night. Peace. Thanks, everybody.